for this week's speaker series, the topic is decision making. You guys know Joe DePace as our attendance clerk, does a little bit of everything. He had a career prior to being here. He's going to talk a little bit about his background, because I think his background is very relevant to decision making. He's lived through some experiences, worked with some teenagers, young adults who he's seen up and close how they regret some of their decision making. And so, Joe, can you talk a little bit about your background prior to being at Synergy?
Before I came to the board, I did 22 years for the Department of Corrections inside the prison system. 5 years in medium security up in Enfield, and 17 and change at the Supermax up in Summers, where we had all the Supermax, where I spent most of my time, was all the so-called troublemakers inside the system. We had the gang unit, high-ranking gang unit, death row, assaulted, troublesome inmates, young kids coming in, all ages actually, it was all males. And it's a sad situation, it's a sad environment. Sad environment. 22 years, and I started when I was 22, and I retired when I was 44, so I spent half of my life in there, pretty much. And then seen a lot of bad decisions by young adults that they're gonna have to own it for the rest of their lives.
So one of the things Joe talked to me about, actually, so I interviewed Joe actually prior to working as an attendance clerk. He was my first year here was a part-time security officer. And so during that interview process, and since then stories, he talked about one of the most powerful things that he experienced would be, there'd be someone who'd show up and they're going to be sentenced that day. So might be with him for 50 minutes, could be all day kind of thing. And so it's just him and that individual who's about to figure out what a judge is going to do to determine the rest of their life. And so there are some specific stories where you got somebody sitting there waiting, they know probably what's going to happen, and just how terrible that must be to know that, we all like, one of the great parts of our country is freedom. In America, you have a ton of opportunity that you don't in other places. But we also, I know many of you, I was in a civics class earlier this week. I don't know if any of you were in it, but I'll take a chance and throw it out there. The United States is 5% of the world's population. And one of the things I walked into the class talking about was the percentage of folks who are incarcerated. Does anybody remember what the United States statistic is?
90%.
Not 90, no, so let me
73?
explain it a different way. So we have 5% of the population. So what if we looked at all the people in the world who are incarcerated, if we have 5% of the population, what should the rate be of people who are in prison?
3.
Well, if it's 5%, what should it be for that?
95.
If it's 5%, what should it be from 5? Not from 100.
What you want me to say, 2.5?
If our population is representative, so if we're 5% of the world, wouldn't you expect that 5% of the people locked up would be similar percentages, yes? Guess what it is in the United States?
What?
Or like the percentage of individuals in the United States who are locked up for the whole world. 5% of the population, it's about 25% of folks locked up. So we have more people incarcerated than anywhere else in the world.
Well,
The percentages are off the charts.
for weed.
That's a good point. And so one of the things that you actually have seen this recent administration, and one of the things that's discussed in criminal justice classes, we need prison, but are there people in there who have been arrested for nonviolent crimes?
Yes.
Then it might make sense.
It's a good percentage.
Yeah, and so, but anyway, what Mr. DePace is going to talk to you about is some folks who were in there, in the trench, sitting there about to get sentenced, and what's going through their mind in terms of their decision making.
That's
Play a lot
true.
of basketball.
Because what I did, part of that, at the end of my career, I did the transportation to the prisons. To the courthouses. So I sat in courtrooms, sat in these guys' trials, court proceedings, sentencing day, and I had, it's like a life-changing experience, some of these things. I bring like a 17, 18-year-old kid, to the court, just say Hartford, I went to Hartford all the time. And I have a rapport with him, because I did the transportation, so I was bringing him every day for his trial, whatever. And there's prison, there's good people locked up, everybody's got the whole stigma of bad people in prison, that's not true. But there's a period of reflection before we always go into the courtroom, where this 18-year-old kid sitting next to me, 17-year-old, because they decided to go out partying one night or make bad decisions, and you know, he's within 10 minutes he's gonna be sitting in front of a judge, and there goes 15 years of his life he's gonna be sentenced. And that's a heavy moment for, just imagine yourselves sitting in a courtroom next to me or outside the courtroom, and you know within 15 minutes you're gonna be, the next 15, 20 years of your life is gonna be taken from you.
That's what you gotta run.
Where are you gonna run to?
I'm running.
That's why you don't do the fuck, that's why you don't do the dumb stuff to get in the situation in the first place.
You're exactly right.
You don't always make the right decision.
How you prepare yourself to go to work every day?
What's that?
Like,
Hold on, we got a lot of good questions. I want, part of,
And
so,
if
so
you don't play basketball, you better start.
So this is probably the most impactful, this is what the story I tell to a lot of people. You guys all got your phones, you can Google it, and stop me when, I don't want you to think I'm making this up. There's a kid, Todd Rizzo, that I took from Waterbury, Naugatuck area. You guys can Google him after, not now. He, graduated from high school, went into the Marines, always wanted to go into the service, went into the Marines. Got kicked out of the Marines because he started smoking marijuana.
Oh yeah, that's
The good
bad. Or DUI, they'll get kicked out quick.
Gonzo, they don't even ask any questions. So he got kicked out of the Marines, and so now his goal that he wanted to do, he's out of the Marines, just started smoking more with his friends. And we all know marijuana is mind altering. It's mind altering drug.
Not for the day you be
Right.
high.
So what he did one day, when there was a neighborhood kid, a special needs kid, 13 years old, decided to take him into the woods because he was smoking, and he wanted to know what it was like to kill somebody.
Oh,
You can Google this. So he brought an 8-pound sledgehammer out into the woods with him. And bashed the little special needs kid head in. Be like beyond recognition.
He wasn't smoking marijuana then.
He was on marijuana.
No, he wasn't.
He was on
I smoke
synthetic.
marijuana every day. I don't punch
you
anybody.
said synthetic, that's K2.
Listen,
You said synthetic?
this is all factual. This
No,
is all,
I'm just saying. But another fact is that half these kids in this room.
Well, you would like to
every
think
day,
that-
and neither one of us has killed anybody.
no, but it's a mind altering drug. That's what I'm saying. This is his scenario on where the drug use can go.
They put something in his weed with him.
So now listen, this
You
is
said,
this
Guys,
is
focus.
you said synthetic, right?
this is far
you'll
from
be able
over.
to ask questions, but the point, listen to the story.
This is far from over. 'Cause now he started smoking, got a little out of control. Brought the kid into the woods. Eugene Williams, I think. Killed the kid with his sledgehammer, gruesome. Got arrested, obviously. And the only reason that I know all this information is because I was standing next to him when he was sentenced to death in Waterbury Court. So you see what a little bit of smoking turned out to.
Yeah, but you said synthetic.
Dog, I don't. To be honest,
Smoking marijuana and everything.
no.
No, listen to me.
It's all
This-
different.
At the time, he started smoking marijuana, he got kicked out of the service. The ball started rolling backwards, life started going backwards.
So he started smoking more marijuana.
Yeah, and then he takes a kid into the woods. Smoking marijuana led to this kid sitting on death row. So all you guys can all Google it, that's all fact.
No, that leads to it. It's mentally something really wrong with him.
You can smoke weed and
You can
still
smoke
be
weed
conscious.
all day and be
Like,
fine.
yeah,
Something
like
really
you
wrong with him for him to do that to somebody else.
could probably affect them differently.
That is not the case. Because if that was the case, if he had mental problems,
The child know.
he would not have been given the death penalty. Because that's a whole other area where we're going. That's
They
a
would have
whole,
released him into a mental.
that's a whole different
What's his
case.
name
But
again?
what you're saying isn't adding up because
What's his name?
like we.
Todd Rizzo.
But people
Todd?
have different.
I know, I understand, but marijuana is not gonna make you grab a sledgehammer
Yeah, but Joe,
and kill
you
somebody.
said
If you
synthetic.
smoke
right?
marijuana,
Hold on,
This
guys,
is
if you're all talking over each other,
we just talking like
it- if you talk over each other, you're not gonna be able to
So
hear.
that's called a debate, Mr. Ross.
But this is not a debate right now.
People need rules.
Why not?
But this,
This is a
Jordan,
conversation.
this is all
That's how you
factual.
learn. Yeah, I
This
know.
is all factual. We can't debate, it's all,
I don't know. Like 95%.
So the point is decision making. What I hear from this story is I hear what many of you are saying, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. And that may end up being the case. But I also heard, Serenity, your point is everybody is different. And there are a zillion other factors. There are mental pieces to this. There are, people do change.
Who's to say it was the weed that caused this though?
But it is, in what I
And that's
heard,
what Joe was trying to get at, right?
what I heard was his decision to do that at the his decision that, hey, I'm gonna smoke, led to him getting kicked out of the military.
Yeah.
That's factual. And then from there, it just continued. And so this individual, instead of being on a path to success, well, all that mattered to them was getting high. And so very quickly, somebody who was headed down a path of having opportunity now is headed down a path where they made a decision that there are many factors that influence that decision, but now this person is on death row. So along the way, there were probably 100 factors and thousands of decisions. But I don't know if young people, I certainly don't think I did when I was your age, thought about every single decision I was making and the long-term implications of it. And that's the point. Like, no one's here to tell you, hey, do this, if you do this, this would be, because we don't know. We don't know, in terms of success, failure, there are a lot of variables outside of people's control. Ultimately, there's luck. But what is so important is that you think about the decisions you're making. And that's really all we can ask you to do. And I would be lying if I told you that I loved every decision I've made in my life. I'd be lying if I told you just this week I loved every decision I made. But I tell you, the more I've done this job, the more I listen to people, like with the stories that Joe is sharing, the stories from many of you, the more I realize how important it is for me and other people to think and reflect before we act. And I cannot think, losing 15 years, when I was your age, it probably didn't bother me as much. I can't wait to go home and see my son and daughter, my wife. And to me, having 15 minutes where I knew I couldn't see them, if I needed to see my son or daughter right now, I could call it, I might have to take a sick day, or I might have to, but I have the ability to do that at any moment I need to do that. If there's an accident, I can't imagine being in jail and my son or daughter is getting married or graduating from college, or just walking across the stage in kindergarten, and I don't get to be there. That to me, I can't explain it to you and expect you to understand it, because I know I didn't understand that when I was your age. But
it's a lot simpler than that. I mean, when you're locked up, you can't, there's no cell phones, there's no radios, where I was at, there's no TVs. We all have the comfort if we want to call mom, dad, whoever it is, grandma, grandpa. You get that one time a day, and you can lose it too. You can lose phone privileges. But every freedom that you guys all are enjoying today, it's gone. It can be gone in a second. You gotta value what you have, what people are offering. Because literally half of my life, 22 years, I was in a negative environment, just seeing good kids like all you guys. I mean, we have some of us bangheads in here, but I don't dislike anybody. It's just, you guys are good kids. You gotta make good decisions, because bad decisions can lead to, like I said, I've seen grown men, I'm gonna cut you off, sit next to grown men before we go into the courthouse, like bawling, because life's over. Kids are gone, Niagara City kids, on a visit, whenever they can come. Freedom, you can be in a 10 by 12 cell with another person.
Jordan, you got a question?
No, that was before, but
Okay.
I kept talking.
Anybody else have any
Yeah, I got a
questions?
question.
Sure.
How you prepare yourself to go to work every day?
In there?
Yeah.
That's a good question. A lot of it, it's you can't take the stuff in there personal, but it's hard not to. there was 7 people that I seen, 4 people I saw get killed. 3 others just died. I mean, it's just not a good environment, and it's just, you gotta not take it personally. You can't get too attached, but we're all humans, you get attached to some people. You build rapport, relationships, like I said, there's good people in there who just made bad decisions. Those environments, it does take a toll on you.
And that is a great question, because I think one of the things you'll realize, most jobs that have a pension that you're able to retire, you gotta put in 30, 35 years, but if you look at folks who work in criminal justice, 20 years and you can have, your pension kicks in. And I think a large part of that is, it is tough to do that over and over and over again. And I bet you, I didn't know Joe back then, but just looking at his personality, I think some of the things he's able to do, and all of us as teachers, support staff are able to do. We all are in education, we all come to work each day, because the hope is you'll connect with one student, you'll help a couple students. In a perfect scenario, you help everyone. That's our goal. Make better decisions and go from maybe not having opportunity to having opportunity. And again, I wish I could tell you all that, hey, you work your hardest, like you're gonna be successful. I can tell you have a greater chance to be successful, but we are playing in an unfair world. We're watching our politicians debate things when, there are billionaires, there are people who today will make more money today than all of us combined will make in our lifetime. So, that's what motivates some people. What our staff, what motivates us is, I think we all feel lucky in different ways, and we all have had somebody who's connected with us to help get us to the position we're in, and so we want to kind of pay back and help mold the future of our country. I know that on a daily basis, you're probably pushed and you're told to do 100 things and you feel like you have no say. And that's just what most teenagers feel. But you do have control over certain things. And the things that you do have control of, even if it's only a little bit, do your best to make sure that you keep that control. And if you feel like you only have this little minuscule amount and you want to have more control, it's about finishing high school. It's about getting that next skill so that you have another opportunity. And the more skills you have, the more wise choices you make, the more flexibility and options you have. Nothing you're going to do from this point on is going to be easy, but you don't need it to be easy. You just want to be able to have a say as much as you can.
That was a big part of the conversations I would have, is when they would reflect on where their life is going. Majority of them should have stayed home. A lot of kids are take off, whatever. Finish school, continue school. They were getting it at the wrong point in their lives. They understood that they should have made better decisions when they were younger, but that's why you guys gotta use your heads now. Because life's not easy. Right?
Other questions for Joe? Can be specific to his past work. It could be what he's thinking right now.
What?
Brianna, you looking them up?
I already read it. I read it already.
What you said?
Do you have any questions for Joe? What do you think about it? Is this true? You could disagree with us. Maybe you think decision making isn't important.
Yeah,
It is important.
but when he said that story, that wasn't regular weed. He said synthetic. That's K2. That shit makes you be crazy. Regular weed ain't gonna do that.
So the point is
Going
that
back into the 90s when there was no K2, when all that happened, early 2000.
It was always dust
The
though.
point
Or it
is,
reacted different to it.
the point is, it's regular marijuana is minor. We all know that. Alcohol.
Yeah, obviously, but it ain't gonna make you think like that. It's just
But I would like to think there's something else wrong with it too.
Yeah,
There
But
was. You
if
can
go to
definitely, you
the
can definitely
beginning-
say that, Joe. You can definitely say that.
If you go to the beginning where it was not just the marijuana, which got him kicked out of the Marines. Because he was successful, he went through school, got his diploma, went into Marines, and that just started his role.
so. how would you guys explain that then? So Joe just said, you have someone who's been is successful, is doing good, has earned an opportunity to serve our country, and then all of a sudden this happens.
He got tired of being a good boy.
Okay.
He wanted to turn
Possible.
around.
I mean,
He thought his life was over.
He was like, he done.
Maybe it was PT. Oh wait, you said he went to the military.
He probably just really wanted to know how it feels to kill somebody.
You said he went.
Or
to,
you don't know that kid probably had depression or some shit.
Yeah.
He was probably fucked
He went
up.
to the military.
I mean, messed
He was
up.
in Marines.
He got in.
He was in. He
Like
got
went
kicked
to
out.
war. Like actually. Okay. So I was gonna say maybe PTSD or something.
could be.
But
I mean,
but he don't
that's a
got
good
PTSD
point, but
from
there is
anything.
none.
Unfortunately, in these kinds of situations, we can talk about and think about it. The truth is, are we ever going to completely know? No. Everybody is different. But I bet you, at some point, most individuals who find themselves in a really bad situation can kind of look backwards and see, okay, there was a time where, okay, it was just a little bit of a bad decision, or it was just like, not that huge of a deal, and it can escalate quickly. And again, that doesn't mean, hey, we're saying that's 100% going to happen for all of you, but it is worth thinking about, and it is worth, having a second thought about some of our decisions. I think right around this time every year, you got junior, senior proms, and there's always a story in the news, no matter where you live, about somebody having too much to drink, driving a car, usually ending up with people dying. Those are horrible, horrible moments for parents, for students, for principals, for teachers, for everybody. And we try our best to kind of prevent them. But the people who have the most power are young people, are our teenagers, our friends who know and are there and are observing. And, I don't know. I think it's going to happen this year, and it's going to be tragic whatever community that impacts. And so at some point, everybody needs to step up and realize, okay, it's not going to stop until, we all are kind of in it together to prevent it from happening. And so we bring people in weekly to kind of talk to you. We have focused a lot on, hey, here's some opportunities I had, positive stories. This isn't one of our happiest, this is tough, a heavy topic to talk about. But when we're talking about decision making, we've shared some good examples of decision making and how it's led to people being successful. All of you in the room, look to your left or right, or look in the mirror. You've overcome, you're a success story just being in school today, being this close to graduation, having a plan for when you leave high school. That wasn't always the case. So that's great. You've made some amazingly positive decisions. There are other people in this world who haven't, and we want you to keep being the people who are making good ones. Final thoughts?
You guys are the future. You guys are in control of your lives. The whole young kids, teenagers, whatever, that whole track right to the prison from schools and young. You guys are the future. You guys can control that and stop that. There's too much of that going on.
And what Joe's talking about, there's a ton of research in the last 2 to 3 years, 5 years, about the school to prison pipeline. In many cases, alternative schools or places where kids go when they've been expelled, or just students who've been suspended regularly. We've noticed a huge correlation. Those are the students who are ending up arrested. Those are the students who are ending up in prison. Not everybody, but there is a great correlation. There's a relationship, and that needs then. When I tell you 25% of all the people incarcerated are in the United States, I hope you're as disgusted about that as I am, and many other people are. That needs to change. I feel like that can change. How does it change? It means we do more things like this. It means we talk to young people, and when mistakes are made, we don't go suspend them and kick them out immediately. Our district has begun to do this, and you could look it up. To a school, the number of students being suspended and expelled is way down. That's a really good thing. That's the first step. The next step is us all having real conversations, getting the students' perspective, talking to people who have gotten in trouble. What can we do better? I hate when I'm sitting in the room with a student, with a family, and it's about something negative. I much rather the assembly when I'm handing out a certificate, or we're clapping for somebody who's graduated. Those are the moments, that's why we're in this. And we need more students getting celebrated. We need more positive experiences, so you are not graduating, you're graduating with a plan. And so, some of you don't have a lot of time left. Take advantage of every single day. Get to school every day and get the most out of every class. Make a good decision today, this week, so that in a couple months you'll be proud of where you are. So, I want to give Joe a round of applause. Appreciate him sharing.